Hello and welcome to How to Create More Writing Time and Increase Your Productivity. My name is Paul Teague, I'm a self-published author, and in this presentation I'll be talking you through some tips, techniques and tools that I use every day to help me get more writing done. So let's look first of all at how I manage my time. Just to give you an idea of how I use my time, I've written 210,000 plus first draft words this year between the 11th of May and September the 16th. So what is that? 5 months? Something like 5 months, just a little bit more than 5 months. So over 200,000 words in a 5-month period. My target was to write 3 90,000 word thrillers over a 6-month period this year. So they've been written really fast, and clearly that's first draft words. So I will have written 9 fiction books and 7 non-fiction books in a 2.5 year time frame. So 9 fiction books, 7 non-fiction books between April 2014 and by the end of October 2016. That'll be, 16 books then. Now, just to emphasise here, I also have a day job, so I don't write full time. I have to go out and earn money as well. I'm self-employed. I also have a family, got 3 kids and a wife. We all live together, and cleaning has to be done and people have to get to school and all of those things. So we've all got this life stuff going on, and I really do believe that it's just simply a matter of organisation. I'm going to explain how I do that throughout this presentation today. Now, one of the best tips that I ever picked up was this idea of scheduling, and the best money I ever spent, I think, to help me get this done is this whiteboard that I've got in my study and that just sits on the wall right to my left as I'm recording this. And I set quarterly goals. And I love doing this. I can't remember how long I've been doing this. For about 1.5 years, probably. I picked this tip up from somebody else, and I really like it. It works extremely well for me. So up here, this is between July and September. These are my thriller writing targets, and you can see that I write, and I'll explain this a little bit more later, I write in 5,000 word blocks. So my writing target for a day is 5,000 words. That's just a routine that I found that works for me. And you'll see that I got all sorts of other things in here. I've got edits in here, so my edits and sending edits to my proofreader. I've got other edits here, so I'm working on 3 books at the moment, so it's quite a crazy time. But I've got targets to achieve to make sure that I get my 3 first draft thrillers ready by the end of October. That was my target for this year. Now, from that quarterly planning board, I then moved down to a weekly planning sheet. So those tasks on the quarterly planning board, we need to divide those up into little bits. They're going to break down into things that I can do within a day period. So again, you need to organise this for your schedule. This is how my day works. And to be honest with you, I can actually do with an earlier slot in here now, because I've been, over the summer holidays, I got into the habit when the family were home of getting up much earlier. I was getting up at about 5 in the morning to get the writing done, to make sure that the writing got done over the summer holidays, because there's too many distractions in the house over summer. So, and I've got into that habit now. I really like working early in the morning. So probably I'm going to rearrange this fairly soon to have a first thing in the morning up with the skylark kind of slot in there. So you'll notice here that I like to keep some ideas top of mind. So I keep my Robin Sharma quote there: the things that get scheduled get done, and do it now, sometimes later becomes never. And that's another thing that I really believe in. So I've got my 2 favourite time management quotes on that sheet so that they're always top of mind for me. And then I will divide my day. This is just the rhythms of my day. Now, you will know what the rhythms of your day are. So for instance, that slot goes to 3 because the kids come in just after 3, and I like to have a cup of tea and a yak with the kids, and then I'm back to it at 3:30 till 5, which is when tea is, and then tea sometimes a little bit flexible, so I call that evening. And I'm generally finished at 9 o'clock in the evening. That's when I usually sit down, watch a bit of telly, watch a little bit of Netflix. And the weekends clearly are slightly more flexible because I cut myself a little bit of slack at the weekends, but I do still work at the weekends. Now, the other thing is, you'll notice here that if I just clear the screen again, I have personal and professional goals. These are the things I most want to achieve during the week. So I am always focused on what is the most important thing. Now, if I sometimes feel a little bit, if there's too much on, I'm getting this sense of overwhelm, I always return to what are the 3 things I need to do by the end of this week to feel happy with the way I've spent my time. And that's why I have that list of personal and professional goals on that sheet. So it's all very organised and very structured. And as I work through my sheet, as you'll see here, it gets a little bit crazy as we go along. I tick things off. Now, I do colour code things on the sheet because it helps me to get my head around what the shape of the week is. And within that week, I've got writing activities, I have general business activities, sometimes I have training, personal development, I've obviously got to go out and earn some money, so I have training, I work with clients as well. So that's a real old mix on that sheet. Now, there you will see I have blocked off my writing time. I write 5,000 words per day. This is just what works for me. I block off days to write. Now, you might not block off days. You might do this differently and say, well, actually, this is the time when I can write. So rather than writing 5,000 words a day, you might do 2,000 words a day. We've both still got 10,000 words done at the end of the week. We've just had to, this is just the way I block my time to make sure I can get the writing done. So you can see I've got 2 writing blocks there. I try and get at least 10,000 first draft words done in a week. And I even super target this because I'll talk about this a little bit more, but I like to have this sense of achievement. You see, I tick stuff all the time. I'm ticking stuff. You can't underestimate the value of a tick. So you'll see here that I write in 1.5, 1.5k and 2k blocks, and I tick off as I do that because I get that sense of achievement. I need that to keep focused and to keep motivated throughout the day, to feel that I'm moving through things and moving things off my to-do list. It gives me a sense of completion. Now, also on this sheet, you'll see that we've got some other things here. We've got, this is the Festival of Writing. So this is actually not a very typical week for me because I had to take 3 days out to go to the Festival of Writing in York. So that was a personal self-development thing. So I wasn't actually doing work. Self-development is work, or it's a work-related activity. But I was away for 3 days in that week. So what you've got to do is you've got to find blocks of time in your day. Now, the way it works for me, because the way my life works, is I go for full day blocks of writing. Now, I say full day blocks of writing. I do my writing on days when my wife is out the house, so there are no distractions. So my wife leaves for work at 20 minutes to 10 in the morning. She works part-time, term time, so she's usually back about 2:30. So to me, that is my block of time when I have 0 distractions and I can just get the work done. And incidentally, while I'm recording this now, by the way, my telephone is unplugged in the office because if it rings, I don't want to know. You don't have to answer the phone. The phone is there for your convenience. They can leave a message if they want to talk to me, and we'll get back to it. So you've got to find blocks of time in your day when you can write undisturbed, and it might only be an hour, and if it is, that's fine. Now, I use an hour because when I was working in my corporate life, before I started working for myself, I literally started my business finding an hour a day during the week when I was at work all day. And in actual fact, for me, that hour came from TV time. So my routine would be that I would, the kids were younger then, so I would come back from work, I'd have tea, I'd read stories to the kids, put the kids to bed, and then our kind of, the washing up's done time was 8 o'clock, that's when we were done, and normally I'd just flop in front of the telly and watch rubbish on the telly during that time. Well, I can remember very clearly, it was about 2008 when I started doing this, that to get the time that I needed to start the website that I was doing then, I realised that I could claw an hour of time back by not watching television and joining my wife to watch TV at 9 o'clock. I just gave myself that hour, and that's where my first hour of time came. And to be honest with you, for most of us, it's going to be TV time where we find that first hour. Now, the other thing that I found tremendously powerful, I'm going to talk more about this a little bit later, is getting up an hour earlier or 2 hours earlier. Now, getting up early is filled with horror for me because in my corporate life I worked for the BBC and I used to do breakfast radio shows. And at its worst, would you believe, I used to have to get up at 2:30 in the morning to drive for an hour to start a shift at 4:30 in the morning to begin a radio show at 6 in the morning. And I associate early mornings with that. Now I'm working for myself. In actual fact, I find it a lot easier to get up at 5 o'clock in the morning, and I certainly don't feel as tired at the end of the day. But something I've been doing over the summer holidays, because it always makes me, when the family are home, there are too many distractions for me. And it's so easy for me to wander out, from my study, have a chat with my wife, have a cup of tea, and before you know it, there's another hour gone. So I was absolutely adamant that the writing was going to get done over the summer holidays. So this year, I got up an hour early. I used to get up at 5, I'd make myself a cup of tea, I would sit at this computer, bleary-eyed, and I would start to write. And often, by the time I was taking my wife a morning cup of tea at about 8:30, which is her preferred holiday time to get up, I'd written 3,000 words, 3,000 to 3,500 words before even the family were moving during the summer holidays. So get up earlier. Now, people say, I can't get up earlier, but I don't think anybody ever died of lack of sleep. They might have died of the consequences of lack of sleep, but no one died of being a bit tired. So getting up an hour early, I found that really, really powerful. In actual fact, I'm really sold on the benefits of getting up early now. Go to bed an hour later. If you don't mind, if you don't roll into bed at the end of the day, you might be able to squeeze that hour when everybody else has gone to bed and it's quiet and you have some quiet time alone. And the other thing is, my bet is, if you've still got kids in the house, or if you have kids, you'll be chasing them to do homework. You'll be chasing them to make the time to do the work. Well, here's an idea for you. When you chase the kids to do their hour homework or however long it is, why don't you join them? Why don't you sit with them, set an example, and do the homework with them? Okay, you're telling them to do this, so you can lead by example with this, and if they've got an hour's homework to do, you can do an hour's writing, you can sit at the kitchen table, it's nice and sociable, and you could do the work together. So these are just some practical ideas about where you can find those blocks of time in your day. Now, to go back to what I said at the beginning, I try and find a full day to write. So by a full day, I mean from 20 to 10 when my wife walks out the door and we say cheerio, to 2:30 when she comes back and I have a cup of tea for her, waiting for her when she's back at 2:30. That is my block of time when I know I can get the work done and I'm not going to be disturbed. So look at your day and try and find those blocks in your day. Everybody's got them. You just have to make sure you find them and you stick to them and schedule that time. Now, the other thing is, because I've been at this for 2 years, just over 2 years now, I actually know how long it takes me to write a book. I know that I could write 1,500 words in an hour. These are first draft words, by the way. I could write 2,000 words in 90 minutes. I could write in blocks of, or when I write in blocks of 1 hour plus 1.5 hours, which is my 5,000 words a day. The most I've ever written in a day was 8,500 words, I think it was. I have to say, that was ridiculous. I would never make a habit of that. And I did have some limb discomfort. So the lesson that I learned was, well, isn't it surprising what you can write in a day? But the second lesson is that's probably not very good for health reasons. But I can do 8,500 in a day. And there are many indie authors who write much more than that. I'm not writing, I don't think I'm writing as many as I would like to write, but that's a comfortable level for me. So I write when my wife is out of the house. My protected time is 10 a.m. to 2 p.m. And I slot that hour plus 1.5 hours into that time. So I know exactly how many blocks of time I need to write a book. I know exactly how long it's going to take me to write a 90,000 word book. And that's how I schedule it. Now, depending on how long you've been writing, it might take you a little while to get this sense of how many words you can write at a certain amount of time. Now, if you're new to writing, you may look at that word count and say, I could never do that. But believe me, there are people writing in the indie author industry who are writing way more than that, and I would like to actually be writing faster if I could. But that's a comfortable speed for me. Don't be antagonised by other people's speeds. The speed you write at is the speed that's right for you. So, if you can't write 1,500 words per hour, if it's 1,000 or 500 for you, that's fine. But the point I'm making here is that when you get that idea of how many words you can write in your time block, you then know exactly how long it's going to take you to write a book, and you can schedule it into your diary. And then you can say with all confidence, like I did with my 3 thrillers, I'm going to have 3 thrillers written. I'm going to write 1 thriller per 2 months, and I'm going to have 3 thrillers written over a 6-month period. You can do that with a great degree of confidence, and it really helps you with your scheduling. Now, a tool that I use, when I write in Scrivener. It doesn't matter what you write in, but I write in Scrivener, and I'll show you one of the reasons I love Scrivener in a moment or two. And I use a time management tool. I use something called the results machine. So you'll see mine's called the results machine here. It's only because I bought mine a long time ago, but it's actually called the action machine. I think it was one of these software tools that's branded. People rebrand it and give it different names, but it's the same piece of software. And I've put the link on the slides just there. And I just need to tell you that it is a paid product. It's not very expensive, but it is a paid for product. And it's actually, when you buy products, and some of them are take it or leave it, but some of them are things that you fall in love with immediately. This is one that I just fell in love with immediately, but in very simple terms, I set my time blocks up. So I've got my time blocks here. Actually, that should be 60 minutes. So I must have changed it to 90 minutes. But normally I write in 60 minutes plus 60 minutes plus 90-minute blocks. And what that does is when I click the button on that console, it starts to count me down, and then when I'm on a 60-minute countdown, I do not do anything but write in that 60 minutes. I don't check Facebook, I don't check emails, I don't answer the phone. The only thing I will do is answer the door if it's a parcel from Amazon, and in which case I'll stop and pause. I won't let it eat into my 60 minutes, and then I'm straight back down, completely focused time. So that's the results machine, or as you will use it if you decide to give that a try, the action machine. It's exactly the same bit of software, just the name that's different. The other technique that I use for time management, and this is really basic and it probably cost about a tenner, is I have a do not disturb sign on the door. I've got it on the door at the moment, though the house is nice and quiet at the moment, but I use a do not disturb sign. So if anybody does come in, it just reminds them that I'm working. And to a certain extent, you have to train the family to respect this. When you're at work, you're at work, and when the do not disturb is up, the do not disturb is up. You don't want to be disturbed for trivial matters. Now, clearly, if the house is on fire, I want to know about that. But the family kind of understand what do not disturb means. It doesn't mean it's fine to knock on the door and offer me a cup of tea. It means I got my head down and I'm working. And, again, in fairness to the family, if you don't tell them that you don't want to be disturbed, how will they know not to disturb you? So I'm a firm believer in even the basics. Like you'll see, I use a lot of technology to help me to get the writing done. But something as simple as a do not disturb sign can just help everybody to get the message. Let's look at some time management essentials then. One thing that I do want to introduce you to if you're fairly new to time management is the Pomodoro Technique. And I use a version of the Pomodoro Technique. So I use the principle of it, but actually the Pomodoro Technique, the blocks of time that they write in are just too short for me. I can actually write in longer spans, but I use the Pomodoro Technique. I've just adapted it for my own use. And the idea of the Pomodoro Technique, and please do check it out via the links that I've shown you below. The idea of the Pomodoro Technique is that we write in focused blocks, and you've already heard me explain how I do that. Now, with Pomodoro, it's about 25 minutes, and we work on just one task, and that task is your writing. So you may find 25 minutes is better for you, particularly if you're new to writing and you're kind of building up your muscle strength when it comes to writing duration. So 25 minutes might be great, and within 25 minutes you might find that you can write 400 or 500 words. But the point is that with Pomodoro, we do work in blocks of time and we do just one thing. We don't write 100 words, have a quick look at Facebook, check the emails, and then come back to the writing. And this is the whole point of this. We do just one thing. No distractions. Close everything down. Pull out the plug. My mobile phone, you won't hear it buzzing, vibrating or ringing because I've turned it off because I don't want to know. That's the whole point of messaging services. The message will still be there when I come and look at it in half an hour's time. So turn off notifications and distractions. Don't get distracted by anything. So with Pomodoro, we set a timer for 25 minutes. We work on it till the timer rings, and then we take a break. And then we come back to it and we do this a couple more times. It's important to get the breaks in. When I do my Pomodoro technique, so I write in 1 hour, and 1.5 hour blocks, I have a brew between the sessions. So I do a 1 hour session, have a cup of tea. I do a 1 hour session, have a bit of lunch. Then I do the 1.5 hour session and then my wife's home from work. That's how my Pomodoro sessions work. So I'm doing them longer, but I'm using the Pomodoro technique principle. It's worth having a look at the website, get yourself a book on Pomodoro and become familiar with the technique. It's a really good time management technique. And if you want to get your own timer, online timer, then here is a link at the bottom of the page here. This is a great little Pomodoro timer. That's the link just there. You can pop that on your computer. And if you don't like the time scales, so as I said, 25 minutes is just too short for me. An hour is great for me. I can easily concentrate for that amount of time and easily not look at my emails and Facebook, even though it is tempting. This is a great little timer, and you can just adjust the timing periods to suit yourself. I would recommend, I think the principle of Pomodoro is absolutely excellent, so please do educate yourself in the principle, but find times that work for you. You don't have to stick to it slavishly. That's what I would say about Pomodoro. Now, here are some books that I recommend that you check out, and you'll see in a moment or two that actually, often with non-fiction, I access it using audio, because it means I can do something else. I can time compress, or I can either listen to them speed it up, or I can be doing something else while the audio is on. So often with non-fiction books, I tend to listen to them as audio nowadays. But I just want to recommend some resources that will really help to get your mind in the right place when it comes to time management. This is a book or an audio, The One Thing. It's an extremely well-known book among sort of time management and personal development circles. And in a nutshell, this book will say, pick one thing, focus on it, get on with it. And this is exactly what the Pomodoro Technique does in these time blocks. Pick one thing you're writing, your book that you're working on, focus on what matters most. Unplug the phone, turn off Facebook, focus on it for blocks of time. So you need to work out what matters most. So this comes back to what I said right at the beginning, is if you don't set objectives and targets, how do you know what matters most? So you need to figure out what matters most to you. And as authors, most of the time, that's I want to write a book. The compound effect. This is a very interesting way of thinking. And this is why, incidentally, I save all my weekly planning sheets, because over time, I can see the compound effect. All the small things that I do in the time blocks that I do them, I can see the cumulative effect. And the cumulative effect is that by the end of October, I will have written, 9 fiction books and 7 non-fiction books. Now, if you'd have said to me in April 2014, I want you to write 9 fiction books and 7 non-fiction books, I'd have run a mile, because it would have been overwhelming for me to even think about that. But when we block it down, if we put it into block time and we plan it out, then it becomes achievable. So the compound effect, the basic idea is just do fewer things well and repeat them over time, and your success will build up. And that's exactly what I've done with my writing. I've done fewer things, I've focused on the writing, I've removed the distractions, I've made time for it, that's the one thing, time for the things that matter. And then over time, because you do that and you repeat it, you get more done. And in this case, it's more writing, it's more books. So the compound effect is a great thing to check out and look at. If you're one of these people who looks at your to-do list and does all the nice easy things first, and then you're tired at the end of the day and this horrible thing that you've been putting off is still staring at you, and you just move it on to item 1 on the next day's to-do list, then you desperately need to eat that frog. I love Brian Tracy. My bookshelves are full of Brian Tracy books. What have I got there? I've got Reinvention, Change Your Thinking. I got Flight Plan is an excellent book from Brian Tracy. And if I haven't got it in a book, I've got it as an audio on my phone. Brian Tracy does some lovely personal development and time management work. I love his time management work that he's done. And Eat That Frog is a classic. If you haven't listened to the recording of or read Eat That Frog, it is a kind of time management classic. And I really would recommend that you listen to this, you access it in some way, because I think it's really just a standard piece of time management listening that you need to consume. And in very simple terms, the idea is that you eat the frog, you eat the big ugly, horrible tasting thing first, you get the worst thing out of the way, and then that's the hardest part of the day, and everything else seems easier afterwards. Now for you, that might actually be the writing, because there's also always a lot of resistance to sitting down to do the writing. So do the writing first, if that's the thing that you struggle most with. Don't put it off, don't do all the other things first. Don't even say, do you know what, I'll do the housework because I struggle with the writing. Do the writing first, and then it will get done. So Eat That Frog, either get it in audio form or book form. Now here's something that I really love. This is Hal Elrod, who's got this concept of the miracle morning, and there is incidentally a book called The Miracle Morning for Authors, which I haven't accessed yet, but the miracle morning is the basic sort of principle for this. And Hal Elrod basically talks about getting up about 5 o'clock, which is what I was talking to you about earlier, and saying that it is a magical time, and it absolutely is a magical time. I get so much more done before anybody's up. The phone doesn't ring, there are no emails, I get a cup of tea, I sit at my desk, it's 5 in the morning, it's dark outside, there's not a sound to be heard, and I get so much done in that time. And this is the basic concept of the miracle morning. Get up early, transform your life. You'll have a day's work done by the time the rest of the family up. It is an amazing thing. Now, if you say to me, Paul, get up at 5 o'clock every morning, I'm going to think, not so sure about that. But do you know what? Every time I do it, it works. So I haven't quite built up the resilience yet to do this every morning. And I the miracle morning talks about doing it at weekends too. And that's as unappealing to me as it probably is to you. But please let me at least share the value of getting up really early and doing the writing. It's phenomenal. I'm absolutely sold on this. I just can't quite bring myself to get up at 5 o'clock every morning yet. But even if you could do maybe 2 5 o'clock starts in the week, with 2 5 o'clock starts over summer, that worked for me beautifully. And I got the writing done in that time. So really, it's the principle that I want you to grasp here, this idea of getting up early where there are no distractions to do your writing. You might not have the resilience, the ability to get up at 5 o'clock every day. I don't think I have yet, even though I'm completely sold on the value of it. But it's the principle that I want you to get, because the principle works really well. So that's The Miracle Morning by Hal Elrod. Now, I own all of these books and many more. I've got a whole shelf dedicated to personal development books. I tend to keep the ones that really have value to me. And you can see these are my copies of The Compound Effect and The One Thing just here. I think I've probably even got them as audios as well in Audible. So what I tend to do is with non-fiction books, and this is, again, another time management tip for you, I tend to, I buy Audible books. I get the £100, whatever it is, the 24 books in a year. In actual fact, I usually get about 48 books in a year. So I just constantly download books, and I listen when I'm exercising, and I listen when I'm in the car. So I use time that would normally be dead time to consume new learning material. I really would encourage you to do this. Listen to self-development audios on time that would normally be dead time, like when you're in the car, when you're exercising, when you're ironing, cooking, gardening. These are all things where you could use for self-development time. And you can see here I've got The Miracle Morning and Eat That Frog. They're on my phone. I listen to them on my phone. And I've got the books for The Compound Effect and The One Thing, but I think I've probably also got the audios. What I tend to do is consume the content in audio form first. And if there's so much content there that you can't possibly absorb it all in your head, I go and buy the book, and then I can go through the book again, and I can underline all the bits that really counted, which really resonated. So listen to audio or listen to books in audio form, particularly non-fiction, I would recommend. The other reason why I do that, incidentally, and here are some photos of my phone here, is that you can actually increase the narration speed. You can you normally listen to these at 1 times the speed. You can increase the speed to 1.25 or 1.5. My brain doesn't work fast enough to go to 2, not unless it's a really slow narrator. But in theory, you could listen to it on many times the speed. Sometimes there's so much information that my little brain just can't take it in time. So you've got to find the playback speed that works for you. But this is a great time management tip, though. You could do this for audiobooks on Audible. You can see here how I've increased the speed, or where I can increase the speed to whatever works for me. And I also do it with podcasts as well. You could increase the playback speed on podcasts. So again, this is a way of consuming more information faster. It's a really good time management technique. And if you listen to those audios on time that normally would be, and I'm using air quotes here, wasted time. Ironing is not wasted time, but it's time when you could be listening to something. And learning new tricks, developing your writing, learning new techniques, listening to writers who've sold millions of books and finding out how they do it. You need to really, I think, compress your time and manage your time in these ways, and then you just get more done. Let's take a look at some time management tools. Focal filter is a favourite tool of mine. It's a pretty blunt tool, but if you're getting distracted by certain sites, what it allows you to do, very simply, if you take a look at this screen extract just here, it allows you to put the sites that distract you into a list. So this is the block list down here, and in their example they've used Facebook, Twitter, YouTube, eBay and Flickr, but I think probably Facebook and Twitter are the main offenders there. You put the list of sites that keep distracting you. You say how many minutes you want not to be distracted for, and for that period of time, if you try to go to those sites in your browser, then they'll be blocked to you. It works with all browsers, including Safari. And I've taught this to businesses, and many people run off and they use it with their kids when they're doing their homework. So you might hopefully get some benefit from this as an author, but you might also be able to share it with the family too if the kids are being distracted and just can't stop looking at whatever it is, Pokemon Go or whatever they're looking at these days, Minecraft, and you can block it for a certain amount of time. So very, very handy, browser-based system, focalfilter.com. A lot of people have used that and like that a lot. It's very, very easy and non-techy to set that one up. Writersblock.io is a little bit more extreme. So writersblock.io sort of takes this to one extra stage, and it says you are not allowed to see anything until you have typed your words. So whatever your word limit is, until you've done it, you ain't going to get to the internet. Okay, so this really depends on how bad you've got it. You know, how if you're really distracted and you just can't write for half an hour, even an hour, without looking at Facebook, then you need something like this. This is downloaded, so you've got to download it to your PC, this one, and it really does lock you out. You know, it will lock you out, and that's it. You've got to get those words done. So again, it's for people who really, really are struggling with this. It is a download, but it's well worth a look. Fortunately, I don't need this, but I do recommend it to people who are struggling. And again, if you've got kids who've got essays to write or assignments to do, you might also find it a useful recommendation for them. It really does block you though, so be warned. You know, don't use it casually. I know I've done little, I think, webinar demonstrations with this, and I've locked myself out sometimes. And you've got to find a way of getting those words in so it unlocks you. So just beware. Just be aware that it really will lock you. The problem as writers, of course, is that often, you know, I have to go on the internet to check things sometimes. So I need the internet accessible. The point here is to stop yourself being distracted by having a quick look at Facebook or Twitter while you're doing what is essential research. Now, the other thing I like to use is Scrivener. I use Scrivener for my writing. If you're not using Scrivener for writing, you know, I really would recommend taking some time to learn it and to experiment with it and taking a trial on it. But one of the many reasons I use Scrivener is I like to set targets. So there's a little target up there in Scrivener, and you can set a manuscript target. So that's my 90,000 words. And you can set a session target, which is my writing for the day. And it resets automatically every time you close Scrivener down. So when I start to write in the morning, you know that your total aim is towards 90,000 words, and you can see I'm sort of a third of a way through a thriller novel there. Which one is that? That's the one I'm working on at the moment, actually, as I record this. So I'm a third of the way through that novel at the moment, just over a third of the way. And when I start to write, I've got none of my 5,000 words done. And obviously you could adjust that writing count, but that's what I aim for in a day. I usually get over it, or I always write over it, but 5,000 is my minimum. And as I write, every word I type, it will put that counter up. I know exactly when I've done my words for the day. And by the way, to incentivize this, I always screenshot. So that's a screenshot of my target for the day. I always screenshot those, and often I share them on social media so that people can see, you know, that I'm really doing the writing and what I've got done in a day. And hopefully that helps and inspires people who are struggling with the writing. But I save them also for myself so that I can see the progression. And the great thing about Scrivener is as we get through this book, it starts in the red just here, then it starts to go amber, it will go yellow, and by the time we get to the end here, it's going to be green. And it's really, really inspiring as you get to the green and you're nearly at the finishing line. I really do like that element of Scrivener. So I do recommend that you use Scrivener. Again, you're going to have to invest some time in learning a new software, but there are many, many, many things in Scrivener that will help you to save time. But this is just one little tool that I use every time I'm writing in Scrivener, because it really just helps get my mindset right and that sense of achievement, and it helps me to focus on my daily target. I want to talk about the Chrome Web Store. I use the Chrome Web Store a lot, and many people don't know about it and don't know what it can do. My favourite browser is Chrome. Now, there's nothing wrong with the other browsers, but Google Chrome, I recommend it. I work with businesses teaching them about Facebook ads and things like that. And basically, if you're serious about being online, having a presence online, doing online marketing, things like email marketing, checking things like Google Analytics, doing social media, if you're serious about that, and as an author, frankly, you need to be, then it's really important that you become acquainted with the Chrome Web Store, because it's going to help you to get things done a lot faster and a lot more efficiently. Within my Chrome browser, without actually having to go to third-party softwares, you'll see here that I can access my Evernote, my social scheduling. I've got a time management tool on there, password management. I manage my Google Analytics via the Chrome Web Store, task management, email management, everything I could do from within my Chrome browser. And most popular softwares that are very well used by marketers, often if you do a Google search for Chrome Web Store and then the name of the software, so you might put into Google Chrome Web Store and then maybe Google Analytics, you'll find that there are little add-ons, and they're free. They're all free. Just click a button, install it to your browser. They're little add-ons that will connect to third-party softwares. And rather, as in the case of, say, Google Analytics, you going to Google Analytics, logging in, checking your analytics, what I do is I use this little analytics monitoring tool. When I'm on one of my own sites that I have Google Analytics code installed on, rather than having to go to Analytics to see how I'm doing there, I literally just click that button and my analytics appear to me in a drop-down menu without me having to go through all that logging in, rigmarole, and trying to find the right site in the control panel. This is the Chrome Web Store. The best way to find it, frankly, is to go into Google and just type the words Chrome Web Store, but that's the URL for Chrome Web Store. And in very simple terms, it just allows you to do cool things using the Chrome web browser. Now, please don't use it for games, as this is a time management presentation. You're generally looking at the apps, but there are all sorts of time management apps or things that just allow you to do things faster. And the way I usually use it is basically it allows me to access third-party sites without actually having to go to the site itself and log in. So if I give you an example of that, these are the apps that I use from the Chrome Web Store. They're all free. I haven't paid for any of those. That's how much I use it. And they all do different things and add different functionality. The best way for me to illustrate this is if I just click to this next browser here. This is my podcast website, for instance. And if you wanted to know what your Google Analytics were for that site, normally you'd have to go to your Google Analytics to log in, to then navigate to self-publishing journeys, and then to check those figures. Well, because I use a little app here, it's this one up here, rather than going to Google Analytics, I could just turn that on, and you'll see that I get my analytics directly within my browser. So that saved me an awful lot of time, and this is something that you'll do quite regularly. I can just pop it up and it's gone. There we go. We can leave it on all the time or just turn it on and off. Very, very handy thing to use. Now, the other thing that I use, and Buffer is something that I'm a big fan of, you'll hear me talk about it elsewhere in the presentation. If I want to share posts to social media, then I use the little Chrome add-on that Buffer gives me. So if I was sharing this post, rather than me having to go all the way to Buffer to do that, what I do is I just click this little Buffer app and it tells me where I can post this. So we'll put that to LinkedIn, we'll put that on a Facebook page, and then we would need to put a comment in just here. And I can then, in Buffer, add it to the queue, share it next, so leap it to the front of the queue, share it now, this minute, or I can schedule it at a time that suits me. So again, use Buffer, but if you're going to use Buffer, please use it with the Chrome Web Store item. Incidentally, just here, that is the Hootsuite Hootlet. So if you do like Hootsuite and that's the one you use, then make sure you use it with the Hootlet, because it works just the same way as Buffer. Rather than having to go to Hootsuite to schedule, all you do is you click the Hootsuite Hootlet, which is a lovely name for it, and it will give you the same sort of interface that Buffer gives you as well. So you can post it and schedule it and do all those things. The other thing that I love here is I use it with LastPass. Now, LastPass is my password manager, and it will automatically log me into all of my sites straight from my Chrome browser. Saves me an awful lot of time with password management. I got all sorts of things on here. Snagit, just here. This allows me to highlight regions and take screen grabs on web pages. The best thing probably is for you to look at the Chrome Web Store, see what's in there, see what you like, just try them, turn them on, turn them off, and see which ones suit you and which help you to save some time. Let's take a look at social media time management now, because this really is a time suck. You've got to beware of the social media time vampire. He will drink you dry of available time, and you won't know where the time's gone. So you really got to watch for this guy. And the best tool that I've found for social media use is Buffer. I love Buffer. It can be used for free. You can connect it to 3 accounts for free. 3 social media accounts, and for most people that's going to be Facebook, Twitter and other, often LinkedIn or Pinterest or whatever it is, Google Plus, whatever you use. And you can schedule in advance 3 social media posts in Buffer, and Buffer will just take care of the whole week's social media posting for you. Now, I do a lot of social media posts and I use Buffer. I generally sit down after tea on a Sunday evening with a cup of tea and I schedule my social media posts for the week. Now, that doesn't mean that I abandon social media for the week. It doesn't mean that I don't respond to people or reply to people, but it simply means that when I use Buffer, I can pre-schedule my posts on social media, and it means that however busy I am, whenever writing I've got to do, it means that I've always got something going out on social media rather than disappearing for weeks on end. Now, this is a real whistle-stop tour of Buffer. It's really very powerful. But the key points with Buffer are that for every social media channel you've got, and you can see on the left-hand side here, I've got a couple of Facebook pages. I have actually got 2 Twitter profiles. I've got a Google Plus. I've got a Pinterest. All sorts of social media accounts in there. And just to mention that I do pay for this, which is why I've got more than 3 accounts in mine. And for each social media channel, here's my Twitter channel. You create a posting schedule. So I post on Monday to Sunday at 9:15 every day, but if we wanted to add more posting times, we'd just add more posting times. It's entirely up to us. We can add and remove those as we please. And I have different posting times for each channel. So as I move through the sections here, you'll see that I'm posting on different social media channels at different times of the day. If we move to the content here, you will see at the moment that I've got items here. These are the ones with the time on them. These are scheduled. And these are generally items that are promoting the podcast. They need to go out at specific times and in a specific order. But the other items are just general posts that I've put in the queue, articles I've seen as I've gone along, and I've added them to my Buffer queue. And you can see that I'm several days ahead here. Now, when it gets really crazy, because I only put 1 post on LinkedIn every day, you'll see that I've got loads and loads of posts in here that I've just saved up. I just spot these things as I go along, add them to Buffer, and they just sit in the queue and they get released at the rate of 1 a day. Look how far we're going ahead here. Got loads and loads of posts all scheduled. Now, this I have to emphasise, this doesn't take the personal element out of social media. You should still reply to people. You should post stuff that's live and organic as well. But what Buffer allows me to do in terms of time management is it allows me to schedule a week in advance. It's particularly handy when I'm very busy or on holiday. And it just takes care of that beat, that just heartbeat of my social media, making sure that I'm posting all the time. And I always try to supplement it with other material, with things that I'm doing now or in the moment. But this is just my bottom line of social media. It means I'm always posting at a regular interval and I don't disappear for months on end. And that's why I particularly like Buffer. Now, it does all sorts of other things. This is only a very quick whistle-stop tour, but you can get your analytics in there. You can change your settings. You can create great social media images. This is a free service too. So you can see here that I create these promotional images here. These are all created with a free element of Buffer, which is called Pablo. Big fan of that. It just sits in Buffer up here. But a very much used tool on my part. I've used it for a couple of years now. I absolutely love Buffer, and I really recommend that you try it if you're working in social media at any level. Here's something else that you might like. We all know that Facebook can be evil. You go to do a little bit of research, you just check, because it'll only take a minute, your Facebook posts, and then there's something interesting there. You click on that, you click on something else, and before you know it, an hour's gone and the writing didn't get done. Now, I did use this a couple of years ago when I had a Facebook software, because I needed to be on my Facebook business pages because that's what the software was connected to. But I kept getting distracted by my Facebook newsfeed. It just draws you in. So I used this newsfeed eradicator for Facebook. And what it does when you install it, as you can see from the image here, on your personal newsfeed, it will just completely remove all the posts, meaning that you can go to Facebook for business, but you will not be able to see the posts that your friends and family and people who've got crazy cats and who want to post about their dinner, you won't be able to see those posts. So the link to it's quite a long link actually, and it's in the Chrome Web Store. So because it's such a long link, I've shortened it there. If you go to that link there, that will take you to the newsfeed eradicator for Facebook, and you can just simply turn it on, turn it off when you're writing, if you keep getting distracted by Facebook, or if you need to go to Facebook as a part of your business routine. The other thing I'd encourage you to do on social media is to turn off your notifications. Just turn them off. And in the next slides, this is where you reach your notifications, and this is where you turn them off. So, people say, oh, I keep getting disturbed by Facebook or LinkedIn. And when I'm teaching businesses about this, I say, just turn the notifications off. Because when you go to those accounts, when you go to Pinterest, when you go to Facebook, when you go to Twitter, when you go to LinkedIn, all your notifications are going to be up here anyway. You're not going to miss anything. So turn the emails off, turn the constant buzzes off on the phone, lose those distractions. This is how you do it in Facebook, and you'll be able to download the slides later if you just want to check where this is. This is how you do it in Twitter. On Twitter, you've got email notifications and notifications that come up through your computer. In actual fact, in Twitter, these are actually the notifications that I receive. The ones that you don't want to receive are below that line. Usually all the marketing nonsense and, somebody scratched their nose and here's a notification. You want to get rid of all of those and just see the notifications when people are engaging with you in a business sense. And these are the notifications I have. Everything else virtually is switched off in Twitter. And this is LinkedIn. This is where you change your communications levels here. It's in your tools and settings area in the communications section, and then we can set the frequency of emails and what we see and what we don't see. Just turn them all off. Check your accounts once a day. Just make sure that you're seeing the things that matter. Get rid of the things that don't matter. And we're back to the kind of the one thing idea here as well. Here are some simple time management tricks. I use something called Speed Dial. Speed Dial is an amazing way of managing your time. In very simple terms, you'll see this is the best screen because this is the Speed Dial that I use. Basically, it's a launch pad for all of the websites that you use most often. So rather than navigating through the browser to Facebook or to LinkedIn or your bank, whatever it is you want to look into, you actually just set these up on a speed dial. This is my speed dial. You can see how heavily I use speed dial. And I've set up my browser. When you install speed dial, I've set up my browser that every time I open a new tab, my speed dial comes up. Now, the whole point of speed dial is just like a telephone. The whole point of it is that you have the sites here that you use most regularly. So as authors, for instance, we're always looking at Amazon. Those are my sales, or this is where I go to look at my sales: Create Space, Draft the Digital, and Amazon Kindle Books. And then I've got things like Insta Freebie and Book Funnel in there as well. What else? Oh, Book Linker, which is where I make my universal book links. And there's probably other things on there too. These are my own websites. So I've got it set up so that all the sites that I go to most regularly are just sitting there. And as you use this more and more, I know exactly where everything is. I've got my banking stuff over here. I just know where everything is because I use it so frequently. Now, if you think about it, you've got a couple of options. You can either do this by putting things up in your favorites up there, but you very quickly run out of space. And as you can see, in the past, I have had them up there. They're still up there. Or you can have a list of bookmarks, which frankly is no use at all because you usually put a few bookmarks in there and you just run out of space. And also it gets cluttered and disorganized and you just can't find anything. So I've found that Speed Dial really works very well for me. And the trick always is to just make sure you've got things on there that you're using regularly. It will help you to save just valuable minutes and seconds every day. So that's Speed Dial. Highly recommended. I've used it for years and I wouldn't be without a Speed Dial. I'm a huge fan of Boomerang for email. It's just a wonderful thing. It just saves me so much time with Gmail. Now you have to use it for Gmail. And frankly, again, if you're not using Gmail in your business, you probably need to switch to it. There's a number of reasons why I use Gmail. I'm not going to go into them here because this is a time management presentation. But with Gmail, you can bring all your separate email accounts into Gmail and manage them from one account. So I have about 10 to 15 email accounts from different websites and things like that. And I manage them all through one account in Gmail. It's great for spam. You can teach it which emails are spam and which aren't spam. There are all sorts of cool things you could do with Gmail. So if you're not using it, please take a look at it, if only to use Boomerang. And let me give you an example of how Boomerang works. It's just simply an amazing tool for managing your emails. This is what Boomerang looks like. You'll find it at boomeranggmail.com. And it's as easy as just clicking that button to add it to your Gmail account. The important thing is, how does it work? I've sent myself a test email here. So this could be any email that you've received. If I just open that email up, and you'll see when you've installed Boomerang at the top here, we get these little buttons. Now, I use this for time management. I don't like to have a full inbox. As you've just seen, I keep an empty inbox. And it's very simple. To me, you either delete it because it's rubbish, you delegate it because you can't deal with it, somebody else has to do, you deal with it, or you diary it because it can't be dealt with now. And a really good example of this, for instance, is something like a bill. If a bill's not due for another month, but you've got to make sure you don't forget it, Boomerang's a great thing to use for that. Now, with any email that you get, you can click on this Boomerang button, and then we can return conversations to the inbox if nobody responds. We could return it in an hour, 2 hours, 4 hours, tomorrow morning, tomorrow afternoon, any number of days, or we can set it by calendar. So often what I will do, for instance, if I've got a year's subscription to something and I need to remind myself to maybe cancel the subscription or to renew the subscription, I will diary it for 11 months in advance. That email just goes away and then comes back like a boomerang in 11 months' time. And I use this for time management all the time. 4 simple things you could do with emails: deal with them, delete them, delegate them, or diary them. And this is the diary them element with Boomerang. And I do this constantly with emails, and it helps me to keep my inbox empty, but it also helps me to manage my time because I just can trust Boomerang. It just brings them back to my inbox on the date when I need to deal with things or when I need to remember things. Now, often I will do it. If I'm busy on a writing day, I will just Boomerang everything until tomorrow morning because it's just too much of a distraction for me. It makes me feel overwhelmed. So I just make them all go away, empty my inbox. They all come back to me the next morning when I've got time to deal with them. But in the meantime, they're not sitting there nagging me, asking to be dealt with. So I'm a big fan of Boomerang. I've used it for a couple of years now, and I really wouldn't be without it. So do take that one out for a spin. Rescue time is how I monitor my time. Rescue time, you put on your mobile phone, you put it on your computers, and it will tell you exactly how you're spending the time. So if you're there as an author saying, well, I've got no writing done today because I've been busy doing lots of things, and if you've got Rescue Time installed on your computer, and then you look at your Rescue Time email at the end of the week where it tells you how you spent your time, and it says that you spent 75% of your time on Facebook, there is no arguing with Rescue Time because Rescue Time tracks absolutely everything that you're doing, and you can teach it what is time well spent. So for instance, I started using this when I had the Facebook software. Actually, for me, being on Facebook at that time was not wasted time because I was doing business related things and software related things. So I could teach Rescue Time that when I was on Facebook, that was not wasted time. Whereas for most authors, it is. It's just frittering time away. So Rescue Time does not lie. You can install it on your computer. It will tell you exactly how you're spending your time. And then you can look at those results over a couple of weeks, and you can see where you need to target to actually create more time in your working day. This then is Rescue Time, and you get to grips very quickly with this. This is me recording this video now. I'm working on the slides today. So you can see that so far I've logged 4 hours of 20 minutes of time online. And as you would expect, much of that time has been using PowerPoint and SlideShare. So I've been preparing the slides for this presentation. And then also it comes down as entertainment. So you've got things here, Beyond Pod. That's something that I've been using on my phone. YouTube on my phone, and the camcorder, which is what I'm using to record this right now. And then I've obviously had a little look at Facebook, Twitter. We've been on Buffer. I've been using that as part of this presentation. So you can see how your time has been spent. Now, you have to teach Rescue Time what is valuable time. So, for instance, Facebook today, I've been using it as part of presentations and demonstrations. I've been using it for work rather than looking at what people have been posting on there. So sometimes you have to say to Rescue Time, you have to categorize the time. You have to say that actually that was productive time. And you can see here I've got I've got uncategorized time, so you can teach it. You can teach it what's good time and what's the bad time. The other thing that you could do within Rescue Time is you can create daily goals. So again, if you're writing, then you want to be creating goals within Rescue Time. And have a look at these lifetime milestones. This is how long I've been using it. Look, how many hours is that? 7,296 hours of time logged. And most of that was productive time, and some of that was distracting time. I'm pleased to see that most of it was actually productive time, and the rest probably is uncategorized. Now, as you've seen hopefully in this presentation, I don't feel I have terrible problems with time management, but when I do and when I'm under pressure, I would actually start to use Rescue Time much more and start to set goals for it. But what I do like about Rescue Time is I get these weekly emails with my productivity, so it tells me how many times how long I've been on my computer during the week, and what was distracting and what was productive, how much of my time has been productive, and basically where I've been spending my time. And usually, to be honest with you, look, that's been a writing week because I've been in Scrivener, design and composition. So I've been working on productive stuff. Social networking for me actually is productive time because I'm usually scheduling in buffer. I'm promoting on Twitter, so I don't tend to get distracted by social media. Obviously, I do spend some time on it, but most social media for me is productive time. Same with Twitter here, same with Facebook there. But the great thing about it is it will tell you exactly what you're doing. So if you're in any doubts about how you're spending your time, you will find out from Rescue Time, and you can use that service for free. I want to finish this presentation by just encouraging you to celebrate your successes. You've seen me kind of cracking the whip here. These are all techniques and tools to help us to get more writing done. But I actually think that you've got to celebrate your success. I think you've got to target, track and monitor your progress, but you've got to give yourself a pat on the back every time you achieve something. It's like positive conditioning for you. And so you'll see how I do this. I have a calendar that's just to my side here, just hung up on the cupboard drawer. Every time I write some words, I monitor it on my calendar. And so when I look at, for instance, we're looking at September there in the photograph, I can see all the writing that I've got done. If I'm feeling that I'm not accomplishing anything, I just look at the calendar and say, oh, look at that. What's that? That's 30,000 words done in the first half of September. And I can look at that and say, well, okay, it might not feel like I'm getting anything done, but when I look at it like that, I really am. I've shown you this already in Scrivener. Every day I write. I have a session target of 5,000 words, and I take a screenshot of my progress so I feel that book progressing. Now, when I sit down to write a new 90,000 word book, that feels like a really daunting task. But as I see myself progressing towards the end of that task, it encourages me and it keeps me motivated. The other thing that I do on my planning board is I write my daily words here and I tick them off as I go along. I tick them off to get that feeling of achievement. And when I look at my board, I just see a whole row of green ticks there, and I know that I'm doing okay. I know that I'm going to get where I'm trying to get to. So please try and build in those little bits of encouragement. However daft they feel, please try and encourage yourself. The value of a tick, just putting a tick on a page, is a positive thing to do. It goes back to primary school, I think. We all craved those ticks. Tick things off. I really can't overemphasize the value of ticking stuff off. You've seen, how bad I am at it across the board. Everything gets ticked off because that's how I feel like I'm making progress. I feel like I've got a sense of accomplishment when I give something a tick, and also that sense of completion. And there's nothing better for me than ticking something and saying done, objective achieved. And all those little ticks add up over time. Finally, I think it's really important, and I need to do more of this, but I am trying to do it more and more, to celebrate every time you hit a target. So every time I finish a first draft, we go out for a meal. We go and do something nice, go to the cinema or something like that. And I would encourage you to do this every time you finish a first draft, where the second, third and fourth drafts are done. However small a success you have, so I've had mediocre success by being on whatever they are, shortlists and things in competitions. Celebrate those small wins, because there's a lot of work involved in this, and there's a lot of commitment. If you're able to write a book, that is a tremendous task. Most people go through life saying how much they wish they could write a book, and they never do the work. If you've written a book, you've done the work, and that is something really to celebrate. Even if it doesn't sell any copies, You've done the work. You've achieved something that most people will never achieve. They'll be talking about it till they go to their grave, but you've done the work, and you should congratulate yourself on that at every step. When you publish the book, when you make your first sale, when you hit certain sales targets, you should celebrate. When you finish the edits, when you've done some hard work, celebrate. Now, it doesn't have to be going out for a meal. It should be something that suits your budget. But if it's only buy yourself a Snickers bar and have it when you finish writing the book, or whatever it is, celebrate. Mark achievement with celebration. In a very small, ongoing way, that's what I use the ticks for, but it's really important, I think, to do something special when you hit the bigger targets. Because it'll make you feel good, it'll really make you feel like you've accomplished something, and it will encourage you to repeat it and do it all again. I hope this has been really useful for you. I hope it's helped to inspire you to get the writing done. If you want a little bit more of that, then you can hear more of my voice on my podcast every week. It's selfpublishingjourneys.com. Every week I speak to authors who are at the beginning of their writing careers. They've generally published at least one book, maybe several. They're making sales. They've got a decent author platform. They're marketing. But they're not people generally who are selling zillions and zillions of copies, and they're not people who've got massive budgets. I specifically target people who are right at the beginning of those self-publishing careers. So if you want to get hints and tips and techniques just like this, please register or tune in for the podcast. It's at that link on the page, and I'd love you to be a regular listener and to get the benefit of all the information that we share as I'm talking to other authors. The other resource that I have is my Self-Publishing Academy, which is a membership site where I basically teach everything I've learned and know about self-publishing. There's everything in there: how to upload books to Draft to Digital, to iBooks, to Kindle, to Create Space. I'll show you how to start making the first sales, recommend the best podcasts. Absolutely everything I've learned on my own self-publishing career is in selfpublishingacademy.com. And again, that link is on the screen. And finally, if you'd like to access the slides and more links and resources, please go to that link. Now, that's a special page that I've set up with all the resources on. There's loads of extra stuff on there, loads of extra links. You can download the slides from there and just get more information about managing your time, not only as a writer, but in general and on social media. I do hope that you found today's presentation really useful. I hope that you'll be able to put some of these tips and techniques into action. And ultimately, I hope that it will help you to get more writing done.